Hello viewers, in this tutorial we are going to learn how to configure monitoring and basic notification in OEM using monitoring template, target groups and incident rules. So viewers, if you are already familiar with the Oracle Database and Oracle Enterprise Manager or OEM but just want to know about monitoring and notification setup, then this tutorial will help achieve that. And if you want to learn about OEM in detail, starting from installation to configuration to administration and create your learning environment using Oracle VirtualBox virtual machines, then I suggest you watch my full series on OEM named Mastering OEM, for which I have given the link in the description of this video below. I am covering monitoring template, target groups and incident rules, these three areas together because they are interrelated, and a clear concept on these three areas will help effectively configure your monitoring setup. First, let's start with the monitoring template. I logged into my OEM system as sysman user, and then under enterprise menu go to monitoring, and under that monitoring templates. At first you will not be able to see anything in this page, so what you have to do, click on this display Oracle certified templates and then click on this search button, and it will display a large number of monitoring templates, and each of these templates is defined for a particular target type. Now what is a monitoring template? So monitoring template defines the metric or the statistics on the target to be collected, the frequency of collection and the thresholds to categorize a metric value at warning or critical level, etc. For example, which Oracle errors are considered as critical, what percentage of the tablespace uses is considered as warning, and what percentage is critical, how much wait time for a SQL statement is considered as at warning, or how much is critical. These all limiting conditions you define in the monitoring template. So whatever we are able to see in this page as monitoring templates, these are all default monitoring template. Most of the time, these default monitoring templates provided by OEM for each of the target types like database, instance, listener, agent, host, etc. serve the purpose. For example, if you go to one of our DB targets, and then you will see that the thresholds for each of the metric collected for that particular target is already defined, and those definitions are coming from the default monitoring templates. So let's validate. I will go to the targets, then all targets, and I will filter out all the other targets except the database targets, and say select any of these two database targets that we have already. Say this ORCL1, right click and then go to Oracle Database, under that monitoring menu, and then metric and collection settings. So here you will be able to see that all these metrics which are collected by default, they have certain values already assigned for their warning threshold and critical thresholds, and at what collection schedule they are collected. All this information you will be able to see. For example, under this tablespace full metric, the tablespace space used percentage, you'll be able to see that the warning value for the metric is 85% and the critical value is 97%, and the collection schedule is every 30 minutes. So if you want to modify these values, you can do so by simply modifying the number to the value you want to set it to. For example, say you want the warning percentage at 80 and the critical percentage at 95 to be more careful, and say you want to collect that information not every 30 minutes but every 15 minutes. Then you can click on this every 30 minutes link here. That will take you to another page where you can modify this information, the repeat every this box, the value you can modify it to 15, and then click continue, and that will take you to the previous page where you'll be able to see that the tablespace utilization metric collection frequency is now every 15 minutes. And at this stage, if you click OK, this metric collection and the definition of the values to categorize them as warning or critical will be set for only this particular target, that is our ORCL1 database instance target. But suppose you have hundreds of database targets and you want to set that value to all those targets, then it becomes really complicated and time consuming to go to each of the database targets metric collection settings and modify that value. And there you can actually utilize the monitoring template to apply that change or your custom settings for collection of metrics, their frequency, etc. in all the targets of the similar type. So I will simply cancel this and I will show you how we can do this using a monitoring template. So first we will go back again to Enterprise, Monitoring, then Monitoring Template. And here, instead of using the default templates, we are going to create our own template. To create the template, we will click on this Create button first, and it will ask for the target or the target type option we want to select. So if we select the target option, then we have to search for a particular target, and accordingly it will create the monitoring template using that target as the source. But we don't want to use a target. Instead, we want to use a target type as our source of metrics and the collection settings. So here we are going to select the databases, and under target type again we'll select database instance. So using these settings, we'll be able to get all the metric collection and settings from the default templates to create our custom template. And then we will click on this continue button. It takes a few seconds to collect all the information about the metric collection and settings from the type of the target we selected and to bring it to our custom template. And now we are in the next phase where we'll define the properties. Say I'm going to give it a name like my DB template, and the owner will be obviously sysman because we logged in as sysman while creating this. And if you want to put any description, you can put it there. And also make this the default template for this type of targets. You can check this box here to make this as a default template. So we will learn about that later on. First, we go to the metric thresholds tab, and there you'll be able to see that a large number of metrics are displayed. But we want to select only the ones where the metrics are defined with some thresholds. So we select the second option, metrics with thresholds. Then this list is reduced by a few. And even you'll be able to see that there are certain metrics like dump area uses, archive area uses, and recovery area uses, etc. So for all of those, we are keeping the same metric value as defined by OEM itself. We are just, for demonstration purpose, changing the tablespace uses percentage to our required value. And you'll be able to see that there are many more tablespace related metrics collected here. For example, tablespace full is the one that we are working on currently. But there is also one more metric, that is tablespace full for dictionary managed tablespace. Usually these days there is no dictionary management tablespaces DBS used to maintain. So we will not talk about that. And also there are some other metrics like tablespace with problem segments, temporary file status, etc. So you don't have to worry about all this at this time because OEM has selected all the metrics here which are mostly of our interest. Now we are going to define our tablespace space uses percentage as per our own requirement. Say warning will be at 80 and critical threshold will be at 95. And then this every 30 minutes we are going to change it to every 15 minutes. Make it 15. Click on the continue button. And just to validate one more time that the tablespace uses warning threshold at 80, critical threshold at 95, and it will be collected every 15 minutes. Then click OK. And our template, my DB template, has been successfully created. And you'll be able to see that template created here. And now if we switch off this particular checkbox and search for the templates, the template that we created is the one which is visible now. Now, because our two database instance targets which we promoted before in our OEM system were created even before we created this template, so whatever settings we have in this template are not actually applied to our database instance targets. So to apply these settings in this MyDB template to the database instances which are already there in our OEM system, we'll select the template that we want to apply by simply selecting the line here in the leftmost box and then click on this apply button. And in the next screen, it is giving us two options. template will completely replace all the metric settings in the target, and the second option where the template will only override metrics that are common to both template and target. This second option is the safest, so we will select this, and then we will click on the add button to select the targets on which we will apply this template. Now, because we defined the template for the target type database instance, so it is selected by default here, and it is giving us all the database instance targets which are promoted in our OEM system. And out of these, we can select only particular targets if we want, or we can select them all. If you do a Control A, it will select all the targets available. So we are going to apply on these two targets, which are the only two database instance targets available in our OEM system. And then we will click on this select button. And next, we are going to click on this finish button to actually apply the template on these two database targets. And it will take a few seconds, and you can see the status. Pending is 2, means for the two targets that we selected, it is still applying and the apply operation is pending. And if we refresh this page, we see that the passed count has increased by 1, pending count has decreased by 1, and fail count is 0, meaning the apply operation has been successfully completed on the targets. Now we will go back to our database targets and check whether those settings were applied or not. Let's select the other database targets, that is the OEM repository database. Then we will right click and then go to Oracle database. Under that, select the monitoring, and under that, go to metric collection and settings. And we should be able to see that the tablespace usage percentage metrics for this particular database has changed to 80% and 95% as we set, and also the collection frequency is now set to every 15 minutes. And it will be the same for the other database instance also. Just to validate, let's go back to our all targets, and from there we'll select the second database instance, right click, go to Oracle database menu, under that monitoring, and then metric collection and settings. And here we will see that the tablespace thresholds are 80 and 95 respectively, and also that the collection frequency has been set to every 15 minutes. Click cancel, because we are not making any change here individually. Now, if you want, you can create n number of monitoring templates, or even you can create different templates for your production database targets, non-production database targets, and set the thresholds differently. For example, you want to maintain a tablespace threshold of 80% at warning and 95% for critical thresholds, but you don't want to maintain the same frequency or the threshold values for production database, because you don't want to take a risk and say you want to lower the value. Say warning threshold will be 75 and critical threshold will be 80. So you can create your different monitoring templates like production template and non-production template, and you can accordingly apply those templates to different sets of targets. And once you create a monitoring template, it is also very easy to clone that template and make minor changes to create a new template from that. Say we will go back to our original monitoring template that we created as MyDB template, and say we want to clone this template to create a new one for production databases. So what we can do, select this template, under actions menu, select the create like option, and here we can put a new template like production DB template, and here we can create a new template using all the settings that were copied from the source template. And now we go to metric thresholds tab, and there we can make necessary changes for the production template. Say here also it is selecting all the metrics by default. We will select only the ones where thresholds are available to reduce the number of metrics, and then we will go to the tablespace full metric, and under that say we want to maintain the warning at 75 and critical at 80 for production databases. And if we click on OK, a new template will be created which is named as production DB template. Now this template is not applied to any database instance, that's why we see that the passed is 0, pending is 0, and failed is also 0. Now we will set the first template that we created as our default template, so that whenever a database target is discovered and promoted in this OEM system, this MyDB template will be applied automatically. To do that, we select this template, click on this edit button, and then we will select this checkbox here, make this the default template for this target type, and click OK. And we see that there is one icon that came just in front of the template name, which is actually saying that this is the default template for all targets of type database instance. Now we got an idea about monitoring template and how you can create production and non-production monitoring templates for different sets of targets. The next thing we need to learn is the target grouping. So if you go to targets and groups, you'll be able to see no groups currently displayed here because we have not created any groups on our targets. So here we are talking about the normal groups. There are also two different types of groups, which are called administrative groups and dynamic groups. We are not covering those two types of groups in this tutorial. So what is a group? A group is a collection of targets. You create the groups for the ease of administration and management of your targets. For example, if you create a group of all the database targets, or if you create a group of all the database listeners, or if you create a different group for all the agents, then you will be able to manage them as a group, which significantly reduces the effort to manage and administer them. So we will first create one group. As I said, I'm going to create a normal group, which is the first option here, and then we will give a name, say prod db instance. Right now we have nothing to define as a parent group, so what we are going to do, we are going to add the members under this group, because we are going to add only database instances here. So let's select the database instance as the target type, and because we have only two database instance targets available in our OEM, so we are going to select only one, which is the database instance for the OEM repository database. We will be considering this as our production database instance, and I just selected that one and click on the select button, and then click on this OK button. So our group name prod.db instance has been successfully created, and right now it has only one instance under that. Now we are going to create another group for the non-production DB instance. So we simply select this line and then click on the create like option here, and the name will be, say, non-prod DB instance this time. As usual, we are not selecting any parent groups here, and from this group we have to remove this OEM repo database because we considered it as a production database. So we will remove it and add the other database instance that we have in our system. Let's select the database instance targets only, and from there we will select the database instance named ORCL1 and click on this OK button. Now our non-production DB instance and production DB instance, these two groups are created. Similarly, we are going to create one group for the listeners. So click on the create group, and we will put like production listener, and click on the add button to add the listener that we designate as our production DB listener. So that is nothing but the listener named listener OEM in our OEM repository database server. Click on the select button, click OK, and similarly we will create another group for the non-production listeners this time. So we will select, say, non-production listener. Please note that these values are coming automatically because sometime back I was creating these groups for testing purpose, and the browser is automatically remembering those text values entered in this text box. But in your case, if you are doing it for the first time, these values may not be available for you. So I will select the non-production listener here as the name of the group, and I will remove the existing listener. Please note that it is coming because we use the create like option from the original group, which already has this listener OEM target. So remove it click on the add button, and from there we will select the listener that is available in the other VM name VM Linux 1. Click on the select button, click OK, and our second listener group is also created. So now we have two groups each for the listener and database instance type targets. And now we can create a parent group for each of these targets. For example, we can create a group for all production type targets. So click on this create button, then select the group option, and under that we will select our parent group as production group, and then we will select the two subgroups as the production database instance and production listener groups. So in this target type, instead of selecting individual target types, we will select the group option, then it will display all the candidate groups. And because we are creating this as a production group, so we are selecting here production DB instance and production listener as subgroups. So now this is creating a hierarchy of groups here. So we have the topmost group as production group, and under production group we have two subgroups as production DB instance and production listener. Similarly, we are going to create a parent group as non-production group, and under that we will add this non-production DB instance and non-production listener. So we are going to create a group, and we are going to give a name as non-prod group, and under that we are going to select our two candidate groups as non-prod DB instance and non-prod listener. Click on the select button and click OK to complete creation of the parent group. So we have two parent groups now, production group and non-production group, and each of these parent groups have subgroups as the non-production DB target groups and listener target groups. Now, as we almost completed defining our groups, let me also tell you that these groups are less restrictive. In this sense, they will allow you to add one particular target to multiple groups. For example, by mistake, even if you add one database target to both a production group and a non-production group, these groups are going to accept that particular target. And to avoid this kind of situation, we have the administrative or dynamic group. The dynamic groups are actually the groups which will select the targets based on certain properties, and this is done by OEM. So there is no chance that one particular target will belong to two groups, like production and non-production both. Now, we have defined these groups, and we know that which one is production group and which one is non-production. But OEM doesn't have a way to find out whether it's actually a production group or non-production group. To define that, we have another way. So you select the line, right click on the group, say production group, then go to target setup, and under that go to properties. Under these properties, there are certain values like comments, contact, cost center, customer support identifier, department, downtime contact, life cycle status. These are many more properties that you can associate with each of these groups. But we are going to talk about one particular property which will be very important for us, that is the life cycle status. And to change that life cycle status, we have to first click on this edit button, and there we will change it to say production for this production group, and then click OK, and then we will go back to our groups again. This time we will select the non-production group, and then right click, go to target setup, properties, click on the edit button, and in the lifecycle status we have other non-production options like development, test, staging, etc., and we will simply select the development this time. You can select test also if you want, but say we will, for simplicity, keep all the non-productions as development only for now. Then click on the OK button, and then we will go back to our groups again. And here I am defining the properties only at the parent level or the highest level, so that I don't have to define it again under the subgroups or at individual target level. This is a ease of management or administration that I mentioned earlier. Now To give a real world example of how it is making our administrative and management tasks easier, I'll just take our monitoring template example. Now, if we go to our monitoring templates page and say we want to apply the production DB template on all our production databases. To do that, what we are going to do, we will select the production DB template here and click on the apply button, and from here again we'll click on this add button, and there, instead of individually selecting all the database instances, we will unselect this and simply click on this group option, and then we'll be able to see that all the groups are displaying here where at least one or more database targets are included. So we can see that a non-production DB instance is selected and non-production group is also selected because this is having the non-production DB instance group. Similarly, the production group is there and the production DB instance group is also there because this group is a subgroup of the production group. So from there, because I'm going to apply the production DB template, so I am simply selecting the production DB instance group here because this template is created only for database instance. Please remember that production group is also having production DB instance as well as production listeners, which we want to exclude here. So we selected the production DB instance here and then click on select, and then if we click on the finish button, then all the production DB instances under the production DB instance group will be having the settings of this production DB template and all its settings. Right now, because the production DB instance group has only one production database target, so this template will be applied only on that single target. So there will be many more advantages of creating these groups and the group hierarchy. And now you learn about monitoring templates and groups. And in the next video in this series, we are going to learn the incident rules and the alerting mechanism and how we are going to utilize the groups that we created in creating our incident rules and the alerts. Now, let's start with the incident rules. So I logged into my OEM system as sysman user. Then I go to setup, incidents, incident rules. So what are incident rules? Incident rules in OEM define the rules for what action to take or how to react upon receiving various incidents on the monitor targets. For example, say a listener or a database is down, a tablespace usage percentage went above critical level or went below warning level, or an Aura 600 error has occurred in a database instance. These are all different types of incidents happening on different targets across your monitored environment, as per the settings you define in the metric and collection settings for the respective targets. Through the incident rules, you will define how the OEM will react upon receiving these incidents. For example, if your organization has two different DBA teams for production and non-production databases, then you may want to send an email alert to the production DBAs upon receiving incidents from production DB targets, or an email to non-production DBA team upon receiving incidents from the non-production database targets. You may want to send a pager duty alert to the production DBAs upon receiving any critical incidents from the production DB targets. You may also want to create a ticket using a third-party software like BMC Remedy or ServiceNow upon receiving any incidents and assign it to the appropriate DBA group. You may want to send an email to the DBAs upon receiving any clear incident when the underlying problem is resolved, etc. So we can achieve all these requirements using incident rules. Now when you arrive at this page, you will see that there are already two incident rules created. These are two default rules given by OEM. These rule sets are nothing but collection of one or more rules, and each of the rules does a specific thing. These default rule sets cannot be deleted or edited, but we can disable them if we want. We are not going to use the default rule sets, but will define our own as per our requirement, and once we see our custom rule sets are working fine, we can disable the default ones. Please note that the incident rule sets are executed as per their order, and also the rules inside the rule sets are executed as per the order at which they are defined. So if you have a more number of rules, OEM will go through each of them to see what action it needs to perform. So you may want to limit the number of rules only to the ones which are actually required or fulfilling your requirement. To define a rule set, we can click on this create rule set button, or we have the same option under this actions menu also, create rule set. Let's click on create rule set, and here we will put a simple rule set name as, say, my prod rule set. So this rule set will be applicable only on production. We are keeping the description blank, and it will be applied to the targets, and the enable checkbox is on by default, which means that once we create this rule set, it will be automatically enabled and it will be in effect. Now the owner will be sysman. It's because I logged into the OEM system as sysman user. So individual users of your OEM system, whoever has the admin privilege, will be able to create rule sets, but it's better to create the rule sets within one particular DBA user or the super user, who is the sysman user here. Now the type of the rule set will be enterprise, because it is going to cover the targets across your enterprise. And you can also create a rule set of type personal notification, which will be only for a set of DBAs or a particular administrator of this OEM system. Now in this target section, we have three options: all targets of types, and specific targets. If you select the all targets, then it will be applied to all targets. However, you have the option to filter in certain targets based on the life cycle status, like production, non-production, development, etc. And you also have the option to exclude certain targets from the list that it creates. The second option is based on the target types, where you'll be able to select certain types, and those type of target will be selected while this rule set will be applicable. And there also you have the option to filter in certain targets based on their life cycle status, like production, staging, development, etc. And you have the option to exclude certain targets from the list. But we will use the third option, that is the specific targets. Now we have the option here to add groups or targets, and we are going to select groups here because we have created certain groups on listeners and database instances, and also we created parent groups as production group and non-production groups, and we are going to select that group here. So click on this add button, and it is going to give us the list of all the groups available or we have created, and from this list we are going to select the production group. Click on the select button, and then we have this rules section. The rules are actually going to define the actions that this rule set is going to take against the incidents or the events coming from the targets. As I have used this incidents and the event word interchangeably for the last couple of minutes, let me briefly tell you about the difference between the incidents and the events. Actually, the events is the most discrete level of something, or the atomic level of something that happened to the target, and the incident is consisting of one or more events. If one incident has only one event within it, then actually there is no difference between the incident and the event. And these are nothing but different situations, like say there is a tablespace full, there is a database down, there is a SQL running for a long time. All these are different types of events or incidents, we can say. Now within this rule section, we are going to define our first rule, and to do that we click on this create button, and we will select this first option, incoming events and updates to events, which is going to serve our purpose the best. Click on the continue button, and here the type of this rule will be on metric alerts. There are different types available here, and you'll be able to understand all this when we go, but for now we are going to select the metric type here, and within these two options, all events of type metric alert and specific events of type metric alert, we are going to select the first one. And under the advanced selection options, we are going to select the severity, and we are going to select the critical, warning, and clear, all these three. And there are many more other options available, like you can put more selection options here, like target type. If you want, you can specify what type of target this rule is going to be applied on, like it will be an agent type target or application deployment or beacon, database system, database instance, etc. But we are not going to use that. Also, we have other options like target lifecycle status, category associated with incident, all these things here. So for now, for the sake of simplicity, we are not going to use these options now. Click on the next button, and here now actually we are going to define the action which needs to be taken for the conditions that we just selected. So click on the add button to add our first action, and the conditions for action is always execute the actions. This first option we are going to select, and create incident or update incident. Within this section we are going to check this checkbox, create incident if not associated with one, and the first option here, each event creates a new incident. Then we'll leave everything as it is. Go to the send notification. This is important because this is actually going to send us the email as an alert. But we see a warning here, and that is because we have not defined any email gateway. But we are going to set it up very soon. First, let's complete the rule set creation. Now, the basic notification. Because we are defining this as a production rule, and as I mentioned earlier, I am going to send this alert to my personal email ID, which I am considering as a production DBA email ID, for example. And if we want, we can put the email ID for CC. Also, if we want, we can put a PagerDuty DL here. Then under advanced notification, nothing will be there because we have not configured any advanced notifications so far. Then the repeat notifications. This is nothing but how repeatedly you want to get a notification on the same event. So I am leaving this as it is now, and I'm not selecting to send any repeat notification at this time. Then submit corrective action. This is another good option here. So corrective actions are nothing but the actions you take against the incidents. For example, suppose there is a listener down incident and you have a corrective action job to bring up the listener whenever a listener down incident happens. Similarly, you may have a corrective action job to add a data file to a tablespace whenever there is a tablespace utilization at 90% or 100% alert comes. So we are not going to cover this at this time. Then the clear events, we are keeping it as it is because OEM is pretty smart to clear the events whenever the underlying issue is resolved. And forward to event connectors. This also we are not going to select. We are just leaving it as default. Then click on the continue button, and our first action has been created. Click next. It will ask for giving a name to the rule, and we'll simply put a rule name like prod rule, leaving the description blank. Click next, and it's giving a summary to review. Click continue, and it says that the production rule has been successfully added to the current rule set. So we see that the production rule has been added, and now we can click on the save button. Now my prod rule set, this particular rule set has been added to the other rule sets that we already had. Now we are going to create another rule set by copying the production rule set, and we have the option to clone a rule set using the create like rule set option under the actions menu. When the rule set itself is selected, we click on the create like rule set, and then we will simply recreate this rule set as non-production rule set. Everything else will be the same, except we are going to add the non-production group here and remove the production. So we'll select the non-production group and we will remove the production group. Similarly, we will edit the rule and we will click next because we are not going to make any change here. But in the actions, we will click on the edit button again, and in this email I am putting my another personal email ID, which at the moment I am considering as the email ID of the non-production DBAs. Everything else will remain the same. Then we will click on the continue button Click next, and we will change the name of the rule to non-prod rule. Click next, click continue, and just to review one more time, this is our non-production rule set, and we click on the save button. Now we have two rule sets created, my production rule set and my non-production rule set. Now we can disable the default rules which were given to us by OEM. So select the first one, then go to the actions menu, click on the disable button, and similarly select the second one, go to the actions, select the disable option, and both the default rule sets are now disabled. Only the ones that we created are enabled now. Now we are going to test our rule set. First we will test our non-production rule set. So we will go to our all targets, and from there we are going to the two database targets that we have. And if you remember, the ORCL1, this particular database instance, we are considering as our non-production database target, and the OEM repo we are considering as our production database target. So to create a critical or warning alert, let's take the tablespace example. Now if we go to the monitoring and metric and collection settings of the ORCL1 database, we see that the tablespace thresholds for the warning is at 85 and the critical is at 95, and the frequency to check this out is every 15 minutes. So let's reduce it so we get a more frequent checks on the tablespace alerts, so we don't have to wait for a long time just to test it. I will put it as 1 minute. Click continue. It will complain that the repeat interval is very low, but we are okay with this for just testing purpose, and click OK again. And now let's go back to our ORCL1 databases tablespace usage summary. When the database instance is selected, we will go to the administration tab, then go to storage and tablespaces. If you see that none of these tablespaces are close to the warning and critical thresholds that we set in the collection settings. Now for this particular system tablespace has auto extend switched off. This is required because if the auto extensible is on, then OEM will not consider it as a incident even if it reaches 99%. The reason is, for auto extensible tablespaces, the data file will be extended automatically whenever required. So that's the reason OEM will never trigger an alert. And I have turned this auto extensible off for this system tablespace just for demonstration purpose. Now to trigger the alert for the system tablespace, even with a 45% utilization, we have to go back to the monitoring and metric and collection settings for the tablespace, and we have to lower this value to something so that it triggers an alert. So we will put a percentage value of 40% for the warning, and we will save it. So within 1 minute we should be receiving one warning incident for this particular database. We saved it, and then we will go to the monitoring and incident manager for this ORCL1 database, and yes, we see that there is one incident already present under the all open incidents option. Now if you click on that, it will give us more details below. Let's drag it a little, and we see that a lot of details are available, like when it happened and what particular event has caused that to happen and what is the category. Everything you need to know about this event or the incident is there. Now you go to the events tab, and under events tab you see the latest events section. You click on this message, that is tablespace system is 45.69% full. You click on that, and that will give us all the events associated with this particular incident. Now you see that this has a lot of information there, and if you see the last comment in this particular area, it has logged something here like failed to send email, which is obvious because we have not configured the SMTP server here. It was not able to send the email to this particular email ID, and the rule name was my non-prod rule set. Under this rule set, that is the non-prod rule. So everything else is as expected. If you see, the only problem here is it is not able to send the email, which we are going to fix very soon. Now what we are going to do to clear this event, we will go back to our database targets, metric collection setting, and we will adjust the warning level so that the incident is cleared. So the moment we put it 85, within 1 minute of that, this rule set will again evaluate the table space utilization, and it's going to clear the event. Let's go to the monitoring and incident manager for the ORCL1 database again, and we see that under all open incidents there is nothing now. It means the underlying incident or the event was cleared. Now let's set the SMTP server for our OEM system, so we'll be able to receive the email alerts. To configure the emails or the SMTP server, we will go to setup and then go to notifications and mail servers. And here you have to put a sender's identity here first. Say whenever a mail will come from your OEM system, who that will be identified as. So you can put a name there, identify sender as anything you can put which will be helpful to identify the source of the email. I'm putting here OEM 13.5 and the sender's email address. This is nothing but the email address of your server where your OEM is hosted. But if this is your learning environment, your server may not have an email ID because you don't have a email server. In that case, we are going to use our personal email ID as the sender because we have to put a valid email address here. Then click OK. In the next section, that is the outgoing mail or SMTP servers, we will click to add the Yahoo SMTP server here, which is smtp.mail.yahoo.com. You can also put the Google SMTP server, but Google is a little more restrictive in allowing to configure their SMTP server with the third-party applications. But Yahoo SMTP server is quite easy to be added with the third-party applications like this. So I am using the Yahoo SMTP server. If you don't have a Yahoo email, you can just open one email for free and you'll be able to test it properly if you face any difficulty in configuring the Google SMTP server. So the port will be 465 and the username will be your Yahoo account's username, and the password. This is most important because it is not exactly the password that is used for your Yahoo account. In fact, you have to use something called an application password, which is given by Yahoo if their SMTP server is configured with any third-party application. To do that, I will go to my Yahoo Mail, and once we are in the Yahoo Mail, click on the account info under your account. It will ask to log in with your usual username and password to your Yahoo account. Then go to the account security and scroll down and go to this section where you get this option, generate and manage app passwords. Click on that link, and here you can give a name to the application that you are using. Say I am giving it a name as OEM, and click on the generate password button, and this will give you a password which is just for one time, and once you use this password, this is of no use. I just copied the password and click on the done button. We will go back to our OEM and we will put the password there, confirm the password, and the secure connection will be the SSL/TLS option here, and click on the OK button. Once these settings are done, you click on the test mail server to test your configuration. If it is successful, then your SMTP server configuration using the Yahoo Mail has been successful. And you can see that the smtp.mail.yahoo.com at 465 test succeeded, means your email configuration is done. Again, we are using this Yahoo SMTP server because we don't have a mail server here, but when you work for a company or an organization, they will have their own SMTP server or email domain, and you can get that information from your messaging team or the email team. Now that our SMTP mail configuration has been done, now for every incident happening, we should be able to receive our alerts. To do that, next we are going to take our production rule set as an example. So we go back to our targets, all targets, and if you remember the OEM repo, this is our production target, as we considered it as our production target and added to our production group. Now we will right click on our OEM repo database target. Under that, go to Oracle database, go to monitoring, metric and collection settings. And we will take the same tablespace example here also. We will lower the tablespace utilization to something like say 50%, and we will set the frequency to say 1 minute so that we don't have to wait for 15 minutes to get an alert. Click on the continue button. It complains repeat interval is very low. We are okay with that and click on continue and click OK. Now it takes a couple of seconds to save the settings. Then we will go to administration, storage and tablespace, and let's see what all are the tablespaces available. We will log in as system user. And we see that all these tablespaces are with auto extend on, so we are not going to receive any alerts. So what we will do, let's take any of the tablespaces and we will just switch the auto extend off. Let's take the users tablespace, click on the edit button, and it has just one data file. Click on the edit button again. We will switch off the auto extend on, and now let's see if the tablespace utilization has crossed our warning level. And tablespace users has been modified successfully. Let's go back to the tablespace list, and for users, let's see, now it is 53%. So it means we are likely to receive one warning alert because we have set the threshold for warning at 50%. So it has crossed that threshold, and now we will go to monitoring and the incident manager for this OEM repo database, and we'll check on all open incidents. And yes, we are able to see one warning incident has been logged. Now if we click on that, and it gives us the details, go to the events tab and click on the message that says the user's tablespace utilization, and under this we go to the last comment. We see that the email sent to my personal email ID, which I considered as the production DBS email ID, and the rule set this time was my prod rule set, and the rule was prod rule. So everything is working as expected. If you want to get more discrete level of the actions taken, you can click on this notification, and there you will be able to see that at what time what action was taken. So the first action was taken at 5:59, which was the following notification will be sent to one email with one recipient, and at 6:00 it actually sent the email. Now we will go back and see if actually we have received an email. And here, when I logged into my personal email, I can see that at the topmost there is an email at 6 p.m. and if I click on that, I get all the details from the host, the target type, the target name, that is OEM repo, It's categorized as the capacity related alert. And most importantly, at the top line itself, we are able to see that the tablespace users is 53.75% full. This is our alert. So we are able to receive our alert in our email. Now we are going to clear this email alert. So we will raise our warning threshold to a limit so that OEM will consider that the underlying issue has been resolved. To do that, we will again go back to our targets, right click on the OEM repo, Oracle database, monitoring, metric and collection settings, and we will go to tablespace full section. We will increase it to its original value as 85, and also we will increase the critical value for 95. Click OK, and let's keep checking our email. We should be receiving one email saying that the tablespace warning has been cleared. Let's refresh it. Yes, we just received it, which says that the EM event is clear. This particular tablespace is now under normal utilization. It is clear. Now let's trigger one critical alert for the production target. To do that, let's go back to the tablespace list of our production database named OEM repo, where our test tablespace is the user's tablespace. Now you see that the maximum space utilization of the tablespace is at 53.75%. So we have to lower the threshold in the metric and collection settings accordingly, so this utilization crosses the threshold. So we will go back to the metric and collection settings for the database target, and we will lower the critical threshold to 50 and the warning threshold to 40, and the collection interval is every 1 minute already, and save the settings, which will take a few seconds. Now it is saved, and we will go back to the incident manager page of the database, and as expected, we are able to see one critical incident here for the tablespace utilization, which is at 53.75%, and severity is critical. Then select the incident line to get the detailed page below, then go to the events tab, then click on the messages to get all the details about the event. Click on the notification tab, where we can see that the latest events is about sending an email to my personal email ID, which we are considering as our production DBA's email ID for this demonstration, and the rule, that is production rule, under my production rule set is responsible for taking this action. And now we should be able to see one email with critical alert in my personal email, and yes, we see at the top of my inbox there is an alert email that came just now at 9:12 p.m. and we see the details about the alert in the email body. Now we will clear this alert by increasing the thresholds that we decreased before in the metric and collection settings. We will go back to the metric and collection settings of both the databases, and then we will reset the tablespace utilization thresholds to their original values. Now we are going to test our rule sets against another type of event called target availability type events. As we already have groups of database instance and listeners in both the production and non-production areas, and the rules are applied on the groups through their parent groups. So we will bring down one listener and see if we receive a corresponding alert for the listener down event. So we have this group named non-production listener, which has just one listener under it. We select the line and then click on the edit button. We see the listener named listener, which is actually in the machine named VM Linux 1. To bring the listener down, I will connect to the machine named VM Linux 1 using Oracle user. We see that the OS process for the listener named listener is up. We will bring it down by using the lsnrctl stop listener command. So the listener is down now. To check the status of the listener in OEM, let's go to the all targets first, then click on the listener to go to its home page, where we see that the listener status is shown as up. Let's refresh the page a couple of times so the latest status of the listener is shown, and now we see that the listener down status is shown with a red down arrow. Now let's check if we have received the corresponding listener down incident or not by going to the incident manager page of the listener. And under these sections, we click each of them to see if there is an incident. And here we see the listener down event under the events without incident section. So it is an event without an incident. So what does it mean? To find out, let's select the line, go to the details below, then go to the notifications tab, and here we don't see any data, no notification, no action. So why it is like that? It's because none of our rules or rule sets are configured to capture these kind of events. If you remember, our rule sets are capable of handling only metric type events, but not target availability type events. So we will have to make necessary changes to our rules within the rule sets so they become capable of handling the target availability type events also. To do that, we will bring the listener up first, and then we will bring it down again after making necessary changes to our incident rule sets. So we will use lsnrctl start listener command again to bring the listener up, and the listener is up now. Now if we refresh the home page of the listener in OEM a couple of times, the status will be shown up with a green up arrow after a few seconds. Now let's go back to our incident rules and make necessary changes that we just discussed. As we are going to take the non-production listener for demonstration, let's take the rule set named my non-prod rule set first. Click on the edit button. Now here in the rules section, we have to add a new rule which will be applicable on target availability type events. So click on the create button first, select the first option and click continue, and under this type we will select target availability as type. The first option, all events of type target availability, will be selected. Now expand the advanced section option, and under that select severity, where we see a few more options available now than the severity options available for metric type events. So there we will select fatal, critical, warning, and clear. We will ignore the informational and advisory options for now, and also we will be able to see under which severity the target down event falls. So click next, and in this page we will add the action for the rule. Click on the add button, select the first option that says always execute the actions, then check this checkbox to create an incident, and each event creates a new incident. Then scroll down, and then the email. I will put my personal email ID here, which we have considered as the non-production DBA's email ID, and rest all the options we will leave with their default settings or no settings at all. Click on the continue button, and here we see that the action for the target availability type event has been set. Click continue button, and we will give a name of the rule as non-prod target availability. Keeping the description blank, click next, then click continue, and a new rule named non-prod target availability has been added to the rule set. We will save it, and our non-production rule set has been modified. Now we will add the same rule to our production rule set also. Select the line with the production rule set, click on the edit button, go to the rules section, click on the create button, select the first option, select the type as target availability from the drop down. Then select this all events of type target availability option, and the severity will be fatal, critical, warning and clear. Click next button, press add button to add the action against this rule. Select always execute the actions, then create an incident, this option. Each event creates a new incident, and for the production email ID, I will use my other personal email ID that I am considering as the production DBA's email ID, leaving all the other options as it is, and then click continue. And name of the rule will be production target availability. Click next. Continue. A new rule has been added, and then click save. Now, both our rule sets have been added with one extra rule each to capture target availability type events. Now we are going to bring our non-production listener down again to see if we receive an email about the listener down event at our non-production DBA's email ID. Let's go back to our SSH session to the server named VM Linux 1 and bring down the listener using lsnrctl stop listener. Let's go to the home page of the listener and refresh the page a couple of times so the latest status of the listener is displayed. And yes, it is shown as down now. Now let's go to the incident manager's page for the listener. And this time, under all open incidents section, we are able to see the listener down incident is logged. Now let's go to its details and see if it was able to send a notification about the incident. Click on the Events tab, then click on the message, and here in the last comment it says the email was sent to the non-production DBA email that we designated for the purpose, which was done by the non-production target availability rule under the My Non-Production rule set. Now let's go to my personal emails inbox, where in the top of the inbox I can see there is a listener down alert email. Click on that and we have all the details about the event. Now we will bring the listener up and we'll see if we are able to receive a corresponding clear email alert. Let's go back to the SSH session to the server and execute the lsnrctl start listener command. And the lsnrctl status listener shows that the listener status is now up. Let's go to the incident manager's page again for the listener, where it still says that it is down. Let's refresh the page again. Now it says that the listener is up, and we can also see that the listener down incident, which was previously logged under this all open incidents section, is now gone. Now let's see if we have actually received one clear email alert. And yes, at the top of my inbox I can see there's a clear email alert saying the listener is up. Now both our tests have been completed successfully. Now you have learned how to create incident rule sets, incident rules under them, and how to apply the incident rules on target groups, and the benefit of using target groups and the group hierarchy, etc., where there is a parent group. Now, if in the future new database or listener targets are promoted in your OEM system, all you need to do is to add those targets to the appropriate group and the rules will be automatically applied to them. For demonstration purpose, I have added only two target groups like instance and the listener groups here. in both production and non-production areas. But in your case, you may have many groups such as EM agents, DB hosts, Golden Gate processes, Exadata machines, ASM instances, etc. In that case, you have to create new target groups and add the targets to the appropriate groups. Unless you have a specific requirement, the rule that I have demonstrated will work great in most of the cases. So viewers, please provide your feedback in the comment section of the video and hit the like button if you found it useful. That will mean a lot to me and help grow this channel.